Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming, first of all, and thank you to Simon for setting up the event. So, just to give you a little bit of background, going to record these stories first about AVILOO. So, my company, I have 3 companies, Maverick Diagnostics and training companies, and Laura overheads our marketing director. So, any questions about that? We've been involved with diagnostics since 1999. I was deeply passionate about EVs, but like Simon, for the last 10 years, so I've been sort of geeking away, taking batteries apart, playing in cars, getting on with this sort of stuff. Even though I'm a massive petrol head driver around the street this. Funny story, but we wanted ourselves to invent this product, something that was on the cards 5, 6, 7 years ago. So there's going to be a need, we can see a need in the market where you can find out the state of health from a vehicle battery pack, and Simon will go into this in depth, but actually that's really not what's going on, because we need some comparison data to see what the true state of health of the battery is. Guess the vehicle manufacturer, they're clearly going to tell you it's 100% every time. And the truth is, what they're able to do, in particular Mr. Musk's car over there, is switch bits of the battery pack on and off through the, did you know this? So you can have a 79 kilowatt Tesla that actually is producing 50 kilowatts or 79 kilowatts, depending on what the software is doing. So they can actually show you what they want to show you of the pack. So it's not a true reflection. So I was always getting asked, how do we really see what the condition of the battery pack is? I'm going back and talking to Amy before. Nissan Lease, when they came out, they were, well, I wouldn't say a disaster, but the early ones are certainly very bad. And the petrol meter would always read in the car say, this is great, and actually it wasn't. You get in the car, it would say you've got 71 miles, you get to the end of the road, and you have 40. So this is giving you the true reflection. So very proud to be working with Simon. This Simon's massive knowledge again about EVs and hybrids. Happy to talk to everybody here. We're here all day, so they say. And I'll let Simon go into it. Right. So you're a official distributor.
Thanks, Andy, and thanks everyone for turning up. It's great to be here, and a lot of you will know me from running Next Eco Car and from being chair of the Irish EV Owners Association there for 3 years up until last year. So yeah, we've gone on a bit of a journey recently, I guess, in terms of understanding what people want to understand about buying an EV. And one of the big questions people always have is, how can I be sure that the battery in this car is good? So I was first approached by AVILOO about 18 months ago to trial their product, and I've been using it ever since to add some assurance to the cars that we buy and sell, and give our customers in turn assurance about, you know, what they're getting, and that the battery in their EV will last, you know, good amount of time and the lifetime of the vehicle. So Andy's done the introductions. Basically what we're going to go through today, probably a couple of you that maybe don't know the background of Next Eco Car, so I'll just touch on that briefly. And then we'll go into talking about the various Maverick products. So there's two products. There's the Premium test, which is like a long test on an EV battery, and a flash test, which is the new product that's just launched market, and what we'll focus on today. And then once we've done that, we'll do a product demonstration. So we'll show actually taking the AVILOO unit and plugging it into the cars here, and how you get them certificated. So yeah, I guess that's my wall of shame. Started Next Eco Car in 2017. Basically, I could see that there was a niche in the market for used EVs, and certainly that would grow over time. But my main thinking at the time was, well, EVs are really expensive, and you know, normal people just can't get into EVs, and that's just as true today as it was 5 years ago. So what is important about making sure when you buy an EV is that the battery is in good condition. So this was something that I always checked on cars the best I could from day one, using the tools that are available, like Lease Buy and Canter E and so on. And that only took us so far, so that's why it was interesting for me to get involved with that. So we've always sold only electric and plug-in hybrids. 100% independent, so we're not tied to any manufacturer. And as I say, my kind of approach was an education-led approach to make sure people knew what they were buying when they were getting into an EV and was going to suit their use case. Things were pretty straightforward in the early days because we imported most of our vehicles from the UK, but since Brexit, that's obviously stopped that to a large extent, and a number of you in the room here will know a lot of the details around that. So that's actually driven up the cost of EVs in the Irish market, which is something that would be good to address. And thirdly, we've actively lobbied for incentives to use EVs, and like I say, just to make sure that regular people can get into EVs and just not preserve the people who have got 30 or 40 grand more to spend on a car. So, and this is like, you know, I could add a number of other vehicles here, but these are the sort of cars we've been selling for the last 5 years. All of these will be available for under 20k, some of those a lot less than that these days. So where are we at with EV adoption in Ireland? Currently there are about 80,000 EVs on the roads here, between fully electric and plug-in hybrids. The target, as many of you will know, is almost 1 million EVs on the roads by 2030, and there's an interim target of 180,000, I think, by 2025. So, moving in the right direction, will we get there? It's an interesting question. But just to give you an idea, if the breakdown between BEVs and FEVs that we sold in Ireland as new vehicles last year, and that actually represents an 86% increase since 2021. So I guess there's a number of other figures here, but the picture I'm trying to paint is we're getting a lot of EVs on the roads now. We're starting from a very low base, but basically we're doubling every year the number of EVs, and as soon as they hit the road, then potentially a used EV at some point down the road. So how do we basically give reassurance to consumers and businesses that these assets that they are thinking of investing in as used vehicles are going to be worthwhile? And this is where the AVILOO toolbox comes in. So, as you heard from Andy, it's great to be appointed the distributor for Ireland. It's the next eco car, but we're working closely with Maverick in the UK and AVILOO, the parent company, which is Austrian. They're the creators of the product. So, talk a little bit more about AVILOO itself. So they founded in 2018 with a significant amount of investment. They have about 30 employees currently, and they released the first product, the premium test, to the market in late 2021. And since then, they've completed something like 3,000 battery tests, and obviously that grows with time. One of the most important things about the product is completely independent, so it's doing a lot more than just reading the state of health that the management system is telling you. It's actually doing a proper analysis on the battery and deciding and figuring out how much capacity is remaining in the battery. And obviously that's very important, because if you have to replace a battery in an electric car, it's up to 50% of the value of the vehicle. Probably proportionally more than that if it's used. So there are basically two products we're going to talk about today. There's the premium test and the flash test. The premium test was the first product that AVILOO brought out, and basically that is a dynamic test of the vehicle, and you would plug in the AVILOO device to the car, charge it to 100%, and then drive it till it's down to 10%. And obviously, with cars and battery size they have these days, that's not super convenient, but you can complete the test over the course of 7 days. This was a test that we were initially using when I started using the product back in the end of 2021, and certainly super useful and the best test to run on a car. But a lot of people like me, dealers, garages and so on, would be wanting something much quicker to use, because I'd potentially be buying vehicles and selling vehicles, and I wouldn't have the opportunity to do like a dynamic test over the duration of the battery discharge cycle. So having realised that there was potential in the market for another product, a flash test is basically a test that runs over 3 minutes, so I can plug the device into the car, get a reading on the battery health, and then I get a certificate sent to me within a few minutes. So it's very quick to use. So for example, for me, if I'm going to look at buying stock, I can test cars very easily.
Does the state charge matter for that second test?
No,
No.
any state of charge. I'll go into a bit more detail about that. So those are the two products, and as I say, the product we're going to focus on today is a flash test, but to understand how the flash test works, it's important to talk about how the premium test works and the amount of knowledge and data and engineering that's been gained through delivering that product. So there are basically 3 components to the solution. I probably should have the box in my hand here, but I haven't got it. Because Andy's probably got one there. Basically, the AVILOO box is a proprietary piece of hardware by AVILOO. You basically plug it into the OBD.
Yeah.
There you go. So, the device plugs into the OBD port of your car. When you, if you were a garage and you receive the kit, you receive all of the cables that you might potentially need to plug into different brands of vehicle. Teslas, for example, some of the older ones in particular have different connection ports. So all of those cables are all the situations that you might come across in a car. The AVILOO battery data cloud is basically where AVILOO collects all of their information. So when a test is running on a car, it's collecting literally hundreds of thousands of data points about the batteries within that car. And that's basically stored in the AVILOO data cloud. And then there's the app. It's actually a web app.
Lido 18.
App you download over the phone. That's basically going to guide you through how you run the test. So either the flash test or the premium test, I'll go through a bit more detail exactly how that works. I think my clicker's gone mad. Press the wrong button, sorry.
Is that with Wi-Fi connected to get to there and cloud?
It basically has a SIM in there, so it's connected over 4G.
Yeah, it's got a multiple SIM in it from multiple networks. Now I've tried this all over the place. It seems to just pick up the strongest network, so it doesn't seem to matter where you are.
So this just to give an idea, this isn't some just crazy thing that I'm doing. I'm going to roll this out through most of Europe already, and as you'd expect in a lot of the Scandinavian and Nordic countries. And as we said before, Maverick have the relationship with AVILOO for the UK and Ireland as a whole, and Next Eco are basically acting as the distributor for the whole one. I'm sure there's a button I can press to actually get it back to there. Still pressing that button. Okay, so just to go through in a bit more detail about the premium test and how that works and the process for using it. So, as I said, basically, to run the test, you need to start off with the car charged at 100%, and you're basically going to execute your test when you're running the car until the state of charge is down to 10%. And this is an example of the certificate, so all the banners and so on. And basically, this is TUV certified. Andy could probably talk a bit more about TUV.
Sort of compliance, yeah. It's, I'll say 3 words on this. Very, very expensive. Compliance.
As I said, when you run the flash test, it's a much quicker static test. You don't need to drive the vehicle at all, and it's basically looking at the condition of the battery. But how does it do that? So basically, the flash test is enabled off the back of all the data that's been collected by the premium test over the many testing cycles that have been completed on various vehicles. Just to give an idea of this graph, basically represents every data point you can see is basically the test that's been run. And this just shows the variety of results we can see through testing any particular brand of EV at 100,000 kilometers. The state of health, as assessed by the AVILOO tool, can vary between 98% and 68%. This is real data that's been collected off real vehicles. So obviously, I or you as consumers want to be buying a car that's got 98% state of health, not 68%. So what does this tell us? The mechanism that we've always used with ICE vehicles to basically assess whether we think a car is worth buying doesn't really stack up anymore. We generally would look at mileage and service history and so on. Mileage is only one factor in the degradation of EV batteries. We also need to look at how old the battery is, also how the vehicle has been charged, and indeed how it's been stored. So has the car been stored with 100% state of charge, for example, which can be very bad for batteries. So all of these things play into the state of health of an EV battery. So this is why it's important to have an independent tool to assess them, because just using mileage as a gauge for buying a used EV is not enough. So the procedure for running the premium test, basically what the customer would do, if it's a consumer, and a consumer can order this test by logging into the website, the Maverick website. Basically they would order the test, specify their vehicle, then the box will be shipped out to them, then they would basically charge their car to 100%, connect the box, and then drive the vehicle down to 10% over the course of 7 days. And all the way through this, you'll be using the AVILOO app, which will basically guide you through these different steps of the process. And at the end, it'll tell you complete, and after, within 48 hours, you'll receive your certificate back from AVILOO. That could be used, as I say, for end consumers, but also garages could offer the service.
The device will then plug in for 7 days.
So the cables are long enough that you're able to get it out of the way. It's not in the way of the footwell or anything like that. Show some cables as well. So that's just illustrating the website that we're basically using to allow consumers to order the premium test. Once they've completed the test, they would send the box back. We would provide a postage label basically to send the kit back. And the cost for that is €1. So yeah, just to summarise, it's basically giving you an independent test. It's not what the manufacturer is telling you is the true state of health of the battery. Transparent results is creating trust for the customer. Basically, there's huge coverage of models. Obviously, new EVs are being released all the time, but basically AVILOO are adding more vehicles all the time. So as vehicles come out, they'll be added to the database. Just as an example of where this has been really useful, and this is a story that AVILOO told us when we were at the previous launch event in the UK. Basically, a customer had a 30 kilowatt hour lithium leaf. They were basically experiencing a situation where they were only getting half the range of the vehicle that they thought they should be getting. But the vehicle was indicating, and you probably know on the Nissan Leaf it has a 12-bar system where you can see what the state of health is. It was indicating 11 of 12 bars. So the vehicle was saying, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm okay. Some degradation, but not very much. Certainly nothing that would indicate that it would only have half the range of what it should have. So by running the AVILOO Premium test, it was basically revealed that the car only had 42% of its original capacity. So this was something that then the customer in this case could go back and use to speak to the OEM and say, well, there's something clearly wrong here, and get that investigated. And this is some of the back-end analysis that's in the tool the premium partners can use. But basically, what this identified was that particular cell voltages in the pack and this particular car were dropping off at a certain point of performance, and that was creating basically a safety risk and a fire risk. So this was all evidence that AVILOO were able to provide to basically go back for the customer to go back to the manufacturer and say, hey, I need a new battery in this car. So just to talk through the flash test. So as I said, the premium test is basically a long test. It takes a lot of time and effort to execute, not particularly convenient in all use cases. So the flash test is a much quicker test, and over time, AVILOO are expecting to basically provide maybe another product in the middle where we have like a short test drive. Because basically, the accuracy of the information you get back is better from the premium test, it's good from the flash test, but if you really want to dig into a problem, then running a premium test is probably the way to go.
What's the margin of error involved with there?
I would have to check and get back to you on that.
Not much, but I've done both in the same vehicle, and it came back with it's the same as up within 1%. So I would say it's pretty good.
And so this is basically an illustration of the flash test report. Now, basically, this is not that's giving you a state of health, it's giving you a score out of 100, and it's basically assessed over 5 different criteria. The main ones, with the heaviest weighting being the condition of the battery and the high voltage control unit, which are really important. Also looks at other elements like the 12-volt battery in the car, which is also key to the correct operation of the EV. And basically, this is a certificate you'll receive back when you've completed the test after 3 minutes. We'll demonstrate that. If the analysis that's completed on the car shows up as a problem, then you basically get a report back like this that doesn't give a score because it thinks it's an issue. So this might be a good indicator then to run a premium test to dig in to get better data to see exactly what the issue is, do a better analysis. So again, just to go through the steps, and this is much more simple, and again, it's guided through by the web app. Basically, connect the box to the car, wait for 2 or 3 minutes, the app will tell you it's complete, and then you'll immediately receive in your email a test certificate. So, I've already kind of alluded to this. When's this useful? So, Andy's talking to a lot of leasing companies in the UK, so they're already in situations where they've been running a lot of fleet EVs and they're coming back from rental. So they want to understand what the state of health of the batteries are on those cars in a quick and easy way. Currently they have no easy way of doing that, certainly not one that's independent, so this is very useful in that situation. Also for traders like myself, but also maybe for consumers who are thinking about buying an EV rather than just relying on what Nissan Leaf state of health's showing you could run one of these tests. So there's a lot of value in checking this out.
Sorry, if you're a consumer looking to buy a second-hand EV, would you use the same test kit more than once? Or?
Basically, there's a cost to each execution of the kit, but yeah, you can use the same kit on multiple occasions if that's what you want to do. Certainly with the flash test, and we'll see, we can go around and plug it into each of these vehicles one after the other. It's slightly more complicated with the premium test because there's some additional setup and configuration you need to do on the back end. Okay, and just to kind of give a bit of news here, I guess, and none of our signed up dealers could be here today, but we've already agreed with Linda's and Fingers, who have a number of EV franchises that you probably know about, that we're going to supply the unit to them. So that's great to have them on board. And also Hevra, which is the Hybrid Electric Vehicle Repairers Alliance, which is basically a group of dealers that are certified to work on EVs. A couple of Hevra certified garages in Northern Ireland have already agreed to sign up with us as well. So Crosses Garage in Lisbon and Drystone Motors in Belfast. So we haven't really been pushing this so far. We wanted to get the launch event done, so we'll be moving ahead with progressing this into more relationships and partners as we go ahead. So probably bored you far enough. So
That's any questions.
if there are any questions, happy to answer them now. After that, we're going to move on to like the practical demonstration of the device. And it's going to be done.
So we gave the price for the premium, so the 99 euros.
Yeah.
Was there a price for the flash?
It's 60 euros. Yeah.
Basically, it's the retail price that we can distribute, so it's worked out slightly differently, so you're going to lose margin.
Basically, because the flash test is such a quick test, the way you basically, if you wanted to get a flash test done, you'd probably go and take the car to a partner who would have a unit and then do it that way rather than send it out and get it back because it's a very quick test.
I did 3 flash tests in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long. The biggest pain in the ass is Mr. Elon Musk's creations over there. Because he's a man who likes to blow rockets up and spend millions of dollars. What he doesn't do is actually put a decent socket in like every little car. So we have some really weird looking cables. So I think with diagnostics on vehicles, we have something called a PIW 1961, which in normal terms is a socket that looks like that in the vehicle. Now every car pretty much has that in every market, apart from Tesla. So Tesla has these weird wonderful cables that you have to put in to various places. Now it's quite easy, to be fair, if you know where the cable is. When you go onto the AVILOO website, there's guides on there on how to fit the Teslas. So some of them are, the ones here, for example, just take the ashtray out to well, it's not an ashtray, whatever it is, underneath, and you plug it in below the screen. And you'll see on that Model 3, it actually goes in the back on that. So that's the only thing I would say is with dealers, there's a bit of a time delay. You've probably got another couple of minutes to actually fit the cable on the Tesla. Everything else is literally, it should be within 30 centimetres of the steering column as a European moving, but unless it's a Renault, which is normally on the other side, French, and things like that. But generally, that's the longest time I've ever taken is just connecting to Teslas.
But there are guides, so if you're executing a test and you're following basically the steps in the app, when you get to the part where it says you connect the unit, there'll be a link to show you, how to find the port in any particular car and where it's located.
The other thing they haven't mentioned is the box is actually leased to the workshop as well on a monthly leasing basis. And the reason for that, I'm going to talk about it, is at any time if they want to upgrade the tech, they can send me the box. And then a lot of the time when I'm using it, it will be constantly doing updates and adding new firmware and stuff like that for new vehicles. So the evolution of the program is very interesting because as the manufacturers, as I alluded to before, manufacturers do move the software forward. So Tesla's automatically update software. So every time they automatically update, it could be changing the battery configuration. Not that I would say that they would do that for any particular reason. They have to change their software slightly, so when you plug it in, it might do an update. Now, just talking a little bit more about premium test and flash test today. The real difference is that we have to put in a specific chassis number of the vehicle for the premium test, because that then compares the data to the cloud. I mean, a lot of this again is about big data gathering as well, and AVILOO are the only people in the world that we know of that gather this kind of data. So they're well ahead of everybody else for this. And I know they will be selling data back to the OEMs eventually.
Quick, so is the 3 minutes flash, does the data go back to AVILOO? If that's really for you,
Yeah.
That's easy to go. Yes, it is. So they're equivalent cards.
Yeah, every test you execute is basically added to the data set. So yeah, the flash test is enabled by the fact that they've run however many premium tests on a particular make or model of EV under particular state of charge, particular temperature conditions, and they're able to compare very quickly the battery on your car with all of the peer group, if you like. So that's the power, and as Andy said, they have a lot of data.
Yeah.
So they've really stolen the march on this sector. I mean, others will undoubtedly come into this space, but they don't have the data that AVILOO have at this point in time. They've already been collecting data of thousands of it.
The TUV thing is very, very important. It's not because you need the TUV. But it's totally like as I say, generally very, very expensive. I was involved in it. I was an ex-Bosch automotive engineer. Everything in Bosch they wanted to do TUV compliance. And it really means it gives it that stamp of absolute authority that they're collecting that data correctly and using it correctly. That's a huge thing.
Is there a challenge with the liability there?
Yes. There is. So the liability, it's things like GDPR, data protection for chassis number. So if you are looking at a vehicle's chassis number 6 months down the line, obviously there's personal data protection for that as well. The liability comes further in. So for example, when we talk about specific car manufacturers, there's no way we're going to speak to us about specific car manufacturers at the moment, because obviously there's a liability there, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll also be just from the perspective of something like an EV, and I do a charge, and it gives me a battery health percentage, and suddenly I have an issue in 3 months' time.
Yeah.
So I need more. This is a challenge, I guess, for you guys.
I think if you've done the TUV compliant testing, you've done it from sort of the 100% to 10%, no.
Yeah.
Flash testing, as we showed with the graphic, with the discharge and recharge, that was actually a miss only 30 kilowatt, and that was, it's a live telematic, so the guy in the car was going up and down a motorway in Austria, and every time he lifted his foot off to regenerate, it had issues with the battery back and things like that. So very hard to say unless you're down to that value. TUV is definitely safest, but the overview, definitely the flash test is, as I say, I found it 100% reliable because I've had vehicles where we've done those tests, and the margin of error has been very, very small. There's been 1% variation pretty much between them, so they're doing well with the data cloud, I would say. The other thing really is, again, going back to Tesla slightly, there's a few variations within Tesla that you'll see me do on that test. So Simon's car's there, he literally just switches the ignition on, and the test will work straight away. You do your I3 first.
Yeah.
And on the Tesla, you actually have to sit in, put your foot on the brake, put the seatbelt on, and do the test. It's just a safety feature in Tesla, things like that. And you can't have any vehicles, in case you guys can take it, so you can't have any vehicles on charge when you do it. It doesn't work when it's on charge. So
Yeah, I mean, typically if you're doing something wrong while the test is executing, it will guide you. So for example, like you said, I've done that as well. I've charged the car. So if you were running the premium test, which needs to be a single discharge, if you plug your car into charge halfway through that, the test will stop at that point because it will see that the car's charging. So guide you in that way.
yeah.